I'd like to thank the Process Art Discovery audience for joining me today. I'm Lynda Norman. I'm a watercolor artist in the beautiful province of British Columbia. Today we're going to make circles and see what happens. So I was tidying up a corner in my studio the other day, and I came across a piece of paper that I had been practicing on. I should have brought it to show you, but anyway, you'll get the drift once we get going here. But what I had done was I had finished a little snack in my studio, and I cleaned the bowl out, and I thought, how can I use that to make shapes? A lot of times when we're trying to create something, it's especially for me, making a circle is almost impossible freehand. So I like to have a little help sometimes. So I grabbed the bowl, and let me just find my nice little, I think I'll use my Leban's and Goat Hair 1.5-inch synthetic brush. My favorite, as you know, if you've been following along. And I'm just going to give it a good wet. I have sprayed my paint in my palette once, but I'm going to do it again. This is, I've set up this little palette specifically with some granulating colors. And these are Daniel Smith Lunar series. So I've got Lunar Black, Lunar Blue, Lunar Violet, Lunar Red Earth, and then I've jumped over to the other series that he has that has beautiful granulation, and the name of the series escapes me at the moment. But there's a tiger's eye and a serpentine, and then I put a little bit of white in there because sometimes this one's called Chinese white. There's a titanium white, I think, as well, and also P.H. Martin's bleed-proof white is an option. I find that sometimes makes things a bit murky, but when you're using granulating paints, I found that sometimes adding a drop of nice crisp white sometimes just enhances that granulation look. So we're going to combine a little bit of granulation, hopefully, and some circles. And I did this once for a Christmas greeting card, and it came out quite nice, I thought. So paints are wet and juicy. And you know, I think with this one, I'm going to just wet the surface of that paper a little bit, because my idea is to get the paint in the shape of a circle, but allow it to move out as it will on its own from there through the water. So our paints kind of work like I do. Taking the path of least resistance is sometimes the best way to go. So I'm going to put quite a bit of water on this page. This is a Bao block. So it's glued on all sides. There's a little opening that you can slip a little knife into and pull it off once it's dry. But this is, Bao has several series of papers, and this is available online. It's called Academy Watercolor Paper Pad, and it is 100% cotton, of course, acid-free. That's usually what I want to use. I'm just going to see, and it does say Bao, so it is a Bao brand, but it says Academy, and Academy tells you that it's student grade, so it's not the highest, it's not the master's series that I use for my bigger paintings, but for fun little tests and trials and smaller paintings, the Academy grade I found is quite nice. So I've given it a good wet, and I'm just going to let that sit for a few moments. You know, in hindsight, I could have left a part of it not wet. That would, you know, change how the water, or how the lack of water makes the paint move or not. So I'm going to go into my paints in a second, but what I want to do is I want to create a circle and use that circle as a bit of a framework for what I'm going to paint inside. So I've got lots of colors to choose from here. I will try the Lunar Black, I think, and I'm just going to lay that on to the edge of my circle here. I'm not going to be too precious about it. If I miss a spot, that's okay. I want to be fairly quick because I don't want it to dry. But you can probably tell, I'm dripping here. This is thick. It's not going to fall off, drip off. I'm not adding extra water to my page at this point. I'm just getting that pigment really wet enough so that it sticks to my circle here. And, oh, and you know what? In hindsight, we could have added more colors than once. I'm just going to go into my lunar violet and just on one side here, add a little bit of the lunar violet to that black, and we'll see what happens. And if I've got a thought in mind, which sometimes happens, not always, now that I put the lunar violet on, that might be interesting for a sort of a sky. And so if I want a sky and then maybe on one side something that looks more like a landfall of some sort, we'll try lunar red earth on the bottom and see what happens. Now, I just got a little sloppy there, so I'm just going to pull those little light dots off. All right, paper's damp. We're going to let that sit. You can already see how the granulation is moving out from the edges. we won't waste that. We'll save that for later. And it's starting to flow out. Just going to move these aside. Now I can go in with more water. And if I just give that bit of paint more options to flow by adding more water and touching the edge of that paint, and just let it play. We'll see where things end up here. Some of these, I'm just going to add a bit more paint and let it flow. And we'll encourage that to come across. In the ones, oh, look at that beautiful bloom happening there. Isn't that amazing? The page is buckled a tiny bit, so it's allowing that to fall through there. I really love that. And, you know, I think that I'm just going to go back in with some water and give that another bit over here to let that happen again, if it will. Now that this is happening, I'm almost seeing that maybe this could be, I don't know, maybe I'll turn that into the roots of trees and have, or a tree and have it, you know, sort of branch out into that circle. We shall see. Taking a bit more of the lunar black, and I'm just going to touch it in there as well to see if it will flow out there. That's kind of what I'm liking. And so it's moving down on the page, and I can tip that and tilt it slightly. I'm kind of happy with that. I think it's pretty cool. You know, it's for me so much fun to just sit and allow the paint and the water to create. And I'm just often just a witness, an encourager, just to make some of these things continue to move. And, you know, sometimes my ideas work with them, and other times the paint has other ideas. So we'll just see how, pardon me, how that goes. I do like to see some unevenness and some balance of contrast and colors and things. So I'm just going to encourage a little more pigment into these areas. And I'm just bringing this one up. We'll see where that goes. I still have this vision of kind of a spooky, maybe this is for Halloween, we're a few months in advance, but that's kind of where this is heading for me because of the colors that I chose. You know, if we were to do something else in maybe the serpentine and the, oh, that would be pretty. Serpentine and the lunar violet might be quite a beautiful thing to do. So we've got quite a bit of wetness here because the paper, even though it's on a block, because it did buckle, I'm seeing that we're going to have more than the water and the pigment at play here. We've got the paper sort of dictating a little bit of what's happening. So I'm just going to dab out just a little bit of that moisture in the middle because I kind of want to, I think I kind of want to do something more specific. So I'm just going to clear some of that out. And I wouldn't have minded if this part over here had been a little more flowing and loose. I'm going to see if we can encourage some of that to be just, I think what appeals to me is the unevenness of it. So I'm going to maybe help that along a little bit. All right. And if I carry on with the theme of, now that I'm thinking a tree with roots, I'm just going to add a few more opportunities for this paint to, the lunar black to flow down a tiny bit. And then, very, very thick still on my brush. Very fine point on the brush, of course, so that helps. And if we just allow the brush to wiggle along and make its branches, we will see where this takes us. Now I had mentioned the white. I'm going to, I think I'm going to, now that I've added a bit more color here, I'm going to go in with a bit of the white and see what happens. This is an exploration for me as well. I really do love how things can be discovered as we go along. And that was quite a drop. I'm going to tip that. Maybe you can see it better that way. And as I was mentioning before, the white does give you another dimension, of course, to that granulation. And I think I'm just going to soften it up into these sides a tiny bit. Just with the side of my brush. And maybe we'll just, I don't have a lot of that lunar red earth in there. I don't think it needs a lot, but I will just to see what will happen, I'm going to add a tiny bit of that to just the tops of some of that, where some of that white is, and it's mixing with the black now, and it's quite beautiful. And then I've got something in the background there. I made some brush marks. I'm going to have to turn that into something, I don't know what. Maybe we'll just make it look like a little bit of background trees happening. Maybe a forested hill in the background here. You can see where the lunar red earth has kind of just softened out into that paper, and it looks almost, it could almost be like a sunset or a sunrise in the background. And then if I, in between where the pigment has already moved gently into that water on the surface of the page, to give those spidery effects, we'll just add a few more specific tree shapes and leave it at that. Now you can see where I went in a little bit too soon, perhaps when it was still a bit dampish here. I would have liked that to have been a bit more crisp. And I think probably what I would do now, rather than trying to go in and mess around with that, I do kind of like how this has come together on the bottom. I'm going to adjust that a bit because it looks to me like it's gone a bit sideways. I like things to be perhaps a little more straight up and down. So I'm going to encourage this piece to come down straighter rather than winging out to the side there a little bit. So I can do that just by making some of these lines a tiny bit straighter, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that just means a bit more water, a bit more pigment, just to kind of define those spots. Again, the pigment and the water will continue to move out on their own as it dries and as things move along. So, but I do kind of love how this granulation is happening with the addition of that Chinese white on top of the lunar black and the lunar red earth. I think it's kind of a cool design here. I'm going to leave this now. I kind of see a path coming through this way, and I love that this is all kind of working its way down to the bottom of the page. I don't normally try to get quite as close to the bottom of the page. Had I taped it off, it would have been a better idea, I'm sure. But this way, you know, I've got some wood cradles. You can see that would be a good size to glue that onto the top afterwards, or put it into a frame perhaps. But I think what I'll do is I'll let this one dry, and maybe later tonight when I'm sitting quietly, I might take one of my micron pens and just maybe define a few of these branches a tiny bit more. I love that there's, you know, this mistiness in the background here. If I use the side of my brush, and it's just damp, not dripping wet, and I can encourage a little bit of that. I don't want to touch this right now because I love what that's done on its own with the addition of maybe, you know, a few little brush strokes from me. But I would love to just let this play on its own and see where it goes. So in the end, we'll put a photo up of the pen work. Again, just a simple micron pen once it's dry. And the paper it's not extra rough, but it's, you know, using a micron pen on cold pressed watercolor paper, sometimes it's hard on the nib. So I'm going to go in gently, and I'm just going to indicate some maybe more defined branches in some of this area here. This is, yeah, such a great exercise. If you've got granulating paints, many brands have granulation in their paints. I use Daniel Smith, as you know, and their granulating paints are magnificent. There's Schminke, I think M. Graham has some. Our local Western Canadian company, Opus, has a new line of, or new colors coming out, and their paints are light fast and granulating as well. So there's lots of options, and if you're looking for paints, you can just look on the tube, research the company, and find out if they do have any granulation. If they don't, and you like the colors, you can get granulation medium. This one's by Winsor Newton. There's probably other manufacturers as well, and you can mix this in your water. It probably would dilute it quite a bit, more than you'd want. Or you can add it right to your page. And just give you a quick example here. I don't ever want to dip a brush into my bottle of product. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit in there and load the brush. And let's just set it in there and see what happens. We drop that one right on there. And we'll set some on this side. I'm going to have to tip this up again because I don't think it's going to move much if I don't. But let's just see. Let's see where that drop went. It went right there. So that already had a lot of granulation. So if we just tip it and let it flow. Oh yeah, you can see here where it is taking those bits of pigment and really quite nicely moving them down. I'm just pushing the pigment into that granulation medium a tiny bit. You know, I'm always here to encourage I found it doesn't always work to my advantage if I get too heavy-handed. So yeah, patience and encouragement with those pigments. And that other fluid has moved right down, which has kind of enhanced that main flow there. So I can see here where the granulating fluid has actually pushed most of the pigment away, so I've got a bit of a light spot. But I kind of like that. It's dark, it's moody, but it's been fun. And I'm excited now to try the other colors. So in a future video, maybe we'll explore something with the serpentine and maybe the, like I said, maybe the lunar violet or maybe even the lunar blue. And we'll see where it goes from there. But this was just a quick exercise. I had a lot of fun with it. I learned a lot. I learned, you know, how that granulation really works on this type of paper. I have dozens of kinds of papers, so it's always good to experiment on something small and see how things go. It would be interesting to try this on a larger surface. I might do that one day. But it's been a lot of fun. I'd like to thank the Process Art Discovery audience for joining me today. I had a lot of fun playing around, quick exercise with some granulating paints, and yeah, I just really had a lot of fun with it. If you try it, let us know. If you like what you've seen, I invite you to subscribe to the channel or head on over to the members area.